Welcome to the Mayor's Forum. I'm Mayor Paul Hodson, and today we'll be viewing a Fireside Chat presentation by Richard Squires, Dave Clayton, and June Sheridan. June, can you tell us about the Fireside Chat?
Yeah, it's an idea we had started some years ago when we had our 300th anniversary, and we had folks in, an early teacher, sports person from Egg Harbor Township and so forth, and talked about, you know, the history of each of those events. And it went very well because there was participation with the audience, could ask questions and so forth. So we decided it might be a good thing to try maybe the program again with some of our local elders and that are involved in different parts of history of Egg Harbor Township. And so we hope that the residents of Egg Harbor Township would come in, and which they did, and participate in listening to some history possibly that they didn't know about Egg Harbor Township before.
But that's great documentation of the history of Egg Harbor Township for future years.
Right.
It's great documentation. Please enjoy this special taping of the Mayor's Forum.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the Greate Egg Harbor Township's Fireside Chat. First one.
Hello.
Look at the responsible behind me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please do.
We have EHT TV with us. I'm going to introduce you to our speakers. They were all raised in the area and have seen many changes through the years. And they will each tell a little something about themselves when it's their turn. We have Richard Squires here. We have June Sheridan. And we have Dave Clayton.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with June, our township historian.
I was born in the area, raised in Bartontown. I've held many jobs in the history community after I found out I was interested in history. And briefly, we'll start an idea in your head is that when I was a child, I lived on Delaware Avenue, was raised there. And Delaware Avenue at that time ran from Bartontown Road all the way to Mill Road. And there were, in my area, from Bartontown Road to Leap Street, there were only 11 houses. As you know, it's changed dramatically. And Delaware Road was a gravel road. And it was a dried in the summer, and the township had to have a sprinkler truck to go up and down the roads in the township that weren't paved because the cars, which there weren't that many on the street, kicked up dust as they went by.
My name is Dave Clayton, and I'm real pleased to be here and feel honored that you invited me to do such a thing. If my teachers could see me now. In fact, I married one the second time around. I ain't about things. But my name is Dave Clayton. I was born in Wilmington, Delaware. My daddy worked at Curtis Fellowship Company, and he had bought a home up in Merchantville in Sultan Township, and we resided there for till I was about 11, 12 years old, I guess. And then we moved down to Linwood, and then I met a girl over in Morgantown, and we got married. That was Mabel Sutton. You all saw, a lot of you remember Mabel Sutton, fine lady, and she just. Well, the preacher said, love, honor, and oh boy, and that's what it was, I guess. And, in fact, her daddy one time, Francis and Edith was her dad and mom, he'd invite us up to eat, you know. On Wednesday nights, we'd go in there to eat. He'd clean up the leftovers, what they're doing, and that was all right. It was good cooking and all that sort of thing. But one thing that really bothers me every time I almost get done eating, he'd jump up and start doing the dishes, and I wasn't even finished eating yet. I thought, hey, like a sucking hound dog, you know, you got hard to break that thing. So I thought, well, how am I going to do that? So I took a rubber band, and I put it around that spray nozzle, you know, on the back of your sink, and I aimed it right out the front. I knew he was going to get up first, and I went over and aimed down. And sure enough, he did. He jumped up, and he went to start them dishes, and he turned both spigots on, and boy, he got a full bore. and that spray come on out and hit him, and he looked over at me and said, "You farted, fool." That was a favorite expression here in the township, "You farted, fool." And he looked at Mabel, he said, "Mabel, I thought you could have did better with your eyes shut." That's where I grew up in Morgan. Now, I've had a good time, and I'll tell you, it's been a spectacular good place to raise kids. Like you were just saying, there was a whole lot of room back in those days. We lived down the end of Seaview Avenue in Linwood, and there's no other houses down there. And we had the whole meadows to ourselves. I had the bay to myself, and I enjoyed clam, oyster, all those things. I'll get into that later here for now.
I'm Dick Squires. I was born in Atlantic City Hospital on December 21st, 1932. So that part is underway. My mother and father moved to the Preble homestead on Old Harbour Road in Delancey Avenue when I was about 15 months old. And my mother's from the Preble side of the family, so therefore she was able to negotiate a deal with a couple of my great aunts, and I didn't know it in those days, but Dad was paying so much a month to live there until he got it paid off, so we all lived on this here, what turned out to be a 9.5-acre farm. And my dad worked for the gas company, so he was out to the gas company in Atlantic City plant at 7 in the morning, come home around 5. And then he would do whatever else he had to do, and he was quite a farmer in between. And the rest of it, my 3 sisters, I'm the oldest. My sisters Janet, Claudia, and Carol. Not in that sequence. Carol's 2 and Claudia's the youngest. We used to have to be assigned to our chores every day, get down on our knees and weed Nickel Row from here to hell and back. I can tell you, many times I didn't think I'd get down the first row. It was so long. I lived there, went to Farmington School, and I spent the first 7 years in Farmington School during the war years. And then when I got to 8th grade, there was one other student who wasn't going to continue and was going to go retire from going to school. So they transferred me to Cardiff School and Mr. Lapahuska. Well, Mr. Lapahuska did me a great favor because I had no background in some of the subjects I should have had. And he shaped me up so I could get in high school. Somebody thought I should go in college prep. Well, I knew better than that. I had college prep for 1 year, and then I got to the general course. I figured it was the best way to try it. However, after that, I graduated from Cardiff School, and it turns out to be, I guess, June of '46, and then went to Pleasantville High School and graduated in June of 1950. We graduated on June 15, 1950, and the Korean War broke out. As far as they were concerned, it was a conflict, but it was a war on the 25th of June. So it was 10 days after we graduated, and a lot of my classmates went right in the Marine Corps or wherever. I was 17 and a half, so I hung around till I got 18, and I even took my dad to the Atlantic City Post Office thinking I needed him to sign, but I had just turned 18, so that didn't happen. So I said, okay, I'll sign up for 2 years. They said, we don't have no 2 years, it's all 4. I said, okay. And it turned out to be the greatest experience I probably should have always looked forward to, but didn't know about it. The Navy was very good. Boot camp, right out of boot camp, we went on a battleship, USS Wisconsin, 2,400 of us. And we went to Korea within 2 weeks, so 3 weeks, I guess. And I ended up, because I was tall, I was a projectile man in a 5-inch .38. I was the guy that put the round in after they put the powder in and then rammed it home. So we did our part in Korea. Having said that, it was in the colder part of Korea as far as the months we had snow on the deck and all those kind of things. On our way over, we never knew whether we were going to be bombed or not. That hadn't been proven, and we were prepared for aircraft So we had everything painted dark, just like the ocean, so that it wouldn't be visible from the sky. But we're here, and we made it back. And I came out, and then I became, I guess you would say, a driver salesman for Coca-Cola for the summer months. And man, I'll tell you, I had a beautiful suntan. I was in great shape. I got the route up at Ship Bottom, and that turned out to be a real route. We left Atlantic City at 8, you couldn't leave at 8, and we drove all the way up there, go across the causeway, and the first stop probably was 9:15. The rest of the guys had their route half done by then, I guess. But I took over after a long week that they hadn't had a driver salesman up there, and as a result, there was no Coca-Cola in any of the markets. So when they heard I hit the first stop, they pulled up with their pickup trucks and they started loading up, and I unloaded the truck right there in the parking lot. So I called in and sent another truck out. Not good. I had a temporary car with Teamsters, you know, summer employee, so I used that for credentials as I went forth. But anyhow, that turned out to be a good job, and then they worked me as a relief man for all the routes. And I finished all the routes by Thanksgiving, and then they decided that they were done all the things they could use me for, so I went unemployed. And I went to the great Atlantic City unemployment office, where I had to stand in line for an hour almost, it seemed, just to sign up. And then after I had signed up, I had to sign for $35 a week, but you get the first 2 weeks in 2 weeks, so you didn't get nothing at that particular time. But when you went back, you had to go back and get your check. Today they mail those things, you know. In the meantime, I was able to, shall we say, graduate from that job into working for the Atlantic City Loan Company as a collection manager. Bill Swinton and Fred Gamp, they were my bosses, 1421 Atlantic. I worked there for about, well, I guess, until July of '62. In July of '62, the city of Northfield held a meeting looking for a tax collector in Northfield. Well, by the time they asked me, they had asked everybody in town. Everybody had turned it down, it turned out. So I must have influenced them with a vote. They said, "Yeah, we'll come to work tomorrow." I said, no, I have to give Mr. Swinton 2 weeks' notice. I thought that was the right thing to do, and it turned out to be the right thing. I worked there for until, I guess, December of '73, and let's see, that's not the right date. It was in December when I got out of the Navy, December of '55, and then I went to unemployment to January of '56. Then I collected unemployment. Then I went to get summoned to the city of Northfield as a tax collector. And there was a gentleman by the name of George Clark, who was an old man, 79. I'm 86 now, so I called him an old man. It took 19 steps to get to the tax collector's office. No elevators, none of that. And you had to hand enter all the tax information. I also became the Registrar of Vital Statistics. That goes with a job in those days. A member of the Board of Health issuing cesspool cleaning permits. That's before sewage. What else did I have to do? Oh, Registrar of all the death certificates. Everybody that died in Northfield, they had to get the death certificates from me. And I had a Hunt and Peck typewriter. And I got electric one after a while. And I could push that button. I got it. But the very first thing that happened to me in the tax office, I picked up the phone one of the first days and it slipped out of my hand and hit me in the head. It was one of those cast babies. I had the telephone company there in 24 hours because that phone was going to kill me. The end result was a very good experience, and they didn't have a tax assessor's course, or I shouldn't say that, they didn't have a tax collector's course in those days at Rutgers, so I went up with the assessors for a 1-week session for 2 years. And then when they passed the law for prerequisites to be a tax assessor, certified, I had them all under my belt as a tax collector, so I became the only tax collector and tax assessor in the same town for the state of New Jersey. So I worked at that job for a while, and after 9 years I became the tax assessor in Big Harbour Township, Anybody here throwing any tomatoes? It was a hot spot to go because they had just had a reevaluation, and my predecessor, he wasn't quite the guy with any personality, so he would always ship people out to file an appeal if they weren't happy and all that. So he had to calm the waters and get that over with. But the end result was I stayed there and got elected as a freeholder, which is a part-time job, in 1975. I became a freeholder until I became the county executive in January 1st, 84. So that was probably a nice period of time. But I left North Egg Harbor Township and stayed as a county executive for 16 years. The rest of some of its history, I was a tax assessor. I then went to county executive, and Chuck Worthington was my predecessor, and Denny Levinson was my successor. So Denny's there working on 20 years, I think, right now.
Maybe it would be interesting to bring up the early education in Egg Harbor Township. And I went to, my first school was Bargaintown. And Bargaintown School at that time was a full school from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. And there's only 4 rooms in Bargaintown School to hold all this. So you can imagine some of the rooms were rather crowded, but not only were they crowded, they contained more than 1 grade. So when I went to school, I went to Mrs. Trulin was the teacher, if any of you remember her, probably you don't. And kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade were all in the same room, and she had to teach each grade during the day. So you would teach, and you would get your lessons done, and when you finished yours, if you did them, you could go to the back of the room and read a book or something while she was teaching the other classes. Can you imagine that today? Then the other grades were 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and finally 7 and 8th grade. So you went your full kindergarten to 8th grade in the same school. Later on, they changed some of the outlying schools to be a junior high school, a middle school, and a elementary school. So they weren't as crowded, and teachers didn't have to teach more than 1 grade on occasion. And then you would go to Carter School and graduate there, because that was junior high school. And when you graduated from the 8th grade in Cardiff, then you went to, not Egg Harbor Township High School, you went to Pleasantville High School. And that was a long journey for a lot of students to go from here to Pleasantville because they had to take the routes. Also, the students from NISPA went to Pleasantville High School. So you can imagine what a long ride that was. Anyway, that was the 4-year high school, obviously. And there were a lot of activities in between. Early on, when you were in Bargaintown School, every spring they had May Day, which is spring play day for the old students with the maypole. I'm sure most of you don't even remember a maypole. But you know, if you have any questions about education, about the schools, about the teachers, we'd be happy to answer them because you went to Farmington and Cardiff.
Let me just point out something about Farmington. It was a 2-story building, but at the same time, there was 4 rooms upstairs, and it was a segregated school. And I grew up in Old Egg Harbor Road around Church Street and all the street. I interfaced with colored people just like members of my family. So when I got there, I didn't even realize that the bus would pick us up and would stop on one side of the school and let the black students off, and then pull across about 200 feet and let the white students off to go into school. So we would be outside playing, they'd be outside playing, but they never interfaced with any of the classes in the school years.
So, you know, where the things went on back then that you can't believe happened now. we all got good education. I mean, look where it wound up. Even with his Coca-Cola job and Dave, he's had many good adventures in Morgantown and life involved with Zion Church. And I made it through college and got to be a teacher and taught in some of the schools that I actually went to school in. So, you know, there was a good education, quality education, even though it's not as it is today.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I was as a substitute at the Carter Family School, I think it was, for just a few months, because I had to leave because I was 5 months pregnant.
Yeah.
You were not allowed
Allowed
to stay if
yeah.
you're pregnant after 4 months or 5 months.
Right. I mean, things were very different back then.
Well, I appreciate your service time for the country that you're doing, and the rest of you veterans.
Yes.
I fell through the cracks. I was born in 31, and that put me just at the age, you know, I tried to join the Navy because I loved the sea. I went to sea for a little while on a dragger, offshore dragger. But they looked at me and said, boy, how much you ain't college? I said, college? I ain't out of high school. And he said, you're going back and finish high school and then come back and see us. Well, by that time, I met this Mabel Sutton. I had no idea I was going to see after that for a little while because she didn't look really either. But anyway, we had four children, and 2 of them in the Navy. Kathy, she's in the Red Cross, and 1 in the Coast Guard. A couple grandkids in the Coast Guard. So I figured that I had to stay home and make a family so that some people around here protect us, but they did. And that was a good thing. And this is a wonderful place to bring up children. And there's so much around that you used to be. Now I go to places where I used to go rabbit hunting. Man, the houses all over the place. And they don't like you in the backyard. And they got a better sense of running a rabbit right up under the house, or there are no houses up anymore much. But anyway, it's been a good place to raise kids. Well, we had some good and interesting experiences here in the township. Where I live, well, I live in an old post office, stagecoach stop and post office building. That's where Mabel's family was. And I had no better sense to move in there with them for a while. Our house flooded out down by Linwood. We right down the Meadowbottom. And come one of the hurricanes blew up there. And the vessel, the old ship that I went to sea on, the old Helen, she come right up in the backyard. I mean, I tell you, it's a 40-footer. And come on up there and I thought it was looking for me, but it wasn't. I think I was in bed and stepped overboard when I got out of bed that morning. So we moved on up to Mabel's old home place, which was the post office building. And there's a lot of history in that old house. And you can tell the age of your house lots of times by the teeth, the saw teeth marks in the timbers. And if the swath goes up and down across them, it was probably sewn up with one of them up and down saws. They used to hook them up to power too. I found that up in Sturbridge. It wasn't there when I was there. But anyway, the old circular saws come on later. But the sawmill was right in front of us, in front of our house by the creek. And the grist mill was on the other side. And the ice house was up on the other side of that. So there's a lot of history there, and I like history now better than I did when I was in school.
That's the interesting thing about the ice house. Why don't we have an ice house?
Why do we have an ice house? Well, they had the sawmill on this side, and you know when they kept ice all summer, they kept it with sawdust between it, and that kind of worked out between them. And they built that ice house over there. I got.
Is that where Sunny Freight?
There was no way of making ice, obviously. There was no refrigeration, electricity back then. So they built it to Morgantown Lake over. Had to get at least 12 inches deep. Imagine that. And then they would cut that into blocks, take it to the ice house, layer it, put sawdust in between the layers, and that ice would hold probably until July in the summer. So that was the only refrigeration that they basically had. And some of it was still being done when there were hotels in Atlantic City and restaurants, and it was the only way they could keep their food cold.
This is true. You know, I'm just amazed to come here. These two folks, they talk, you know, I talked to Mr. Squires here on the phone and called him up to see what in the world we was going to do. He said, "Well, I don't talk very much." You believe that? Man, I tell you what's the truth. I'm glad for that. I don't say much now. But anyway, my children grew up there in Bargaintown, and I've got one of them here tonight. Kathy's here. She was my buddy, my sidekick when I was growing up. I'm glad she fell off a horse, broke her foot, so she couldn't ice skate one year. And I had a big old chisel, and she went on down the pond there, and she cut her a hole in the ice, and she put a tip up. You know what a tip up is? That's a stick that you tip up there. You put a little hole in the ice, and you put a little lever on it, little one over the top, and when a fish come along and bite it, you go like that, and you run over and you get it. Sometimes you put a bell on it too. Well, she was doing that, and the big old boys come over there and said, "Yo, what you all doing cutting holes in ice here?" She said, "I'm ice fishing." I said, we gonna play hockey. How are we gonna play hockey with them holes in ice? She said, "Well, I was here first." Put her foot down. She learned real hard because she grew up with three brothers, you know. Jimmy, I gotta stop and think now. Dan and Steve. And like I say, when you get to be 88, something happens to your brain. You'll find out.
Interestingly, that Bargaintown Lake was a very popular recreation area. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I had a picture I should have brought with all the cars. I might put all the Model A's and Model T's. Of course, that's the year it was. And,
what was your first car?
What's that?
What was your first car you bought?
My first car? That had a Model A. Had a T-model Ford. And well, it was good to have them T-models because, you know, them wheels, 18-inch I think they were. And with these gravel roads around here, you could go where other folks couldn't because they plowed on through that stuff. And it was, well, it was good. I can't remember. I think my first car that I really owned by myself was, I had a pickup. Maybe it was a Chevy, maybe a 46 Chevy, something like that. And it was a good car. They all run. They took care. If you take care of them, they take care of you. Right? That's the way it was. Anyway, where was I? Anyway.
I didn't know I interrupted you.
Shame on you, bitch. I married a school teacher second time around. This is Diane Pritchard. She come on down here from New England. She's a Clayton now. She come on down from New England. And she went in this area, but she didn't know better since. She went into Zion Church there one day, and I introduced myself. She introduced herself. We got to talking, and I found out that she had worked aboard a fishing vessel offshore for 12 years, up in New England. And I said, "Man, that's interesting." Then when I saw a picture of her little dog, I said, "Is that your dog?" She said, "Sure is." I said, "You know, we ought to get married." We got married. It's been great ever since. How long have we been married? I think 5 years going on 6.
Did it right.
I remember that. But it's been a good experience. But she is a school teacher. You know, her daddy was a coach of where was he a coach?
Worcester Polytech.
Polytech up in Massachusetts, and he was a good man. And but anyway, when I asked the preacher, I said, "Preacher, would you marry Diane May?" He said, "Look at me." Looked at her. When he looked at her, he said, "Are you ready for this?" I noted. Anyway, let's see, where should I go from here?
I was going to say, might want to talk about sports.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Football and baseball and what
Well,
it was like back then when we didn't have organized.
No, you didn't. I grew up on Old Lake Harbor Road, and Old Lake Harbor Road and Fire Road is where the Carmen family lived. Howard, Dick, Dave, Louie, Jimmy, and Andrew Carmen, and Louie Carmen. And all the Carmens, so that we'd always play baseball, a little pepper game and stuff before we'd go play Bargaintown or whoever. When we would go, we'd go on our bikes. Nobody had a car. None of us were old enough to drive. And many times, you put the bat around the handlebars and it would slip through and get boats, something like that. But I played ball with her brother in Bargaintown when we played a couple times. And the end result is that Itchy Fagano and John Dilworth, got a whole bunch of Bargaintown boys there.
Johnny Ennis.
Yep, Don Ennis. I knew exactly where they were. Right over Leap Street.
Yep.
And I rode the bike all the way down. I'd take rides on our way to the Shore Mall or whatever with Winnie, and I say, I used to ride my bike out here, but that was like Foreign Legion when I was riding. But seriously.
And your glove over the back while you're
Oh, yeah.
riding.
And we go away to Linwood, we go away to Absecon, but California Avenue. And we actually did. But back to the Bargaintown Pond, it was still freezing in the 50s. I was in the Navy when I came home in 53 and 54. I was stationed out of Atlantic City. So the end result was the people that gathered to skate and have bonfires on that Bargaintown Pond. Like he said, the cars are parked from here and all over the place. And the end result was, guess who gave the okay to skate on the Bargaintown Pond?
You.
No! The Linwood police were in charge of giving the okay as to whether the ice was safe or not. Now you talk about a liability situation. Today, they wouldn't want to be anywhere near that particular decision. But that's the kind of life it was in the old days.
And swimming.
Oh yeah, swimming. In fact, down the far end, you could wade in a ways, and a lot of people had picnic grounds there. And the rest of them had the diving board. And not many people were allowed to dive too much in those days.
There actually was a diving board and
There was.
a diver went out into the pond. And the children were down at the little end because they could wander around there up to their knees and not get in trouble in the wrong way to watch them. But the show-offs were down at the big end. And,
Well, the three of you have almost a quarter of a century experience, wisdom, and common sense, which is not so common anymore. What is, looking back, the change that have taken place with our society, our culture, and the township, the people and everything? What is your feeling at this stage of your life? Let's start with you, sir.
Well, I think the children today, they seem to be a lot different than I was. My daddy said, "Oh, that road, we owed the road." And he had a board education. It hung between the kitchen and dining room. And he did have a strap, razor strap with lines cut in it.
I know what about that strap.
I get stung up with that a few times. And there's some big changes. When I'm here, I just look. I wrote some notes because, like you say, 88 years old. You remember? I can't imagine how he can remember things without picking a note out of his pocket. But anyway, that's good. That's good. But I mentioned old Zion Church, and there's one of the things that I remember about Zion Church. They had a hall, a social hall up on the end there where the big oaks are, and we used I don't mention it, but we had outhouse back in those days. If you had to go to bed, you went to the outhouse. Well, up there in Zion Church, we had the outstanding memorabilia that we had a 5-hole. You remember that? Okay, maybe you remember. And so, there was 3 big ones across the back, and there was 2 little ones down here on the side. And I worked with a fellow. I was telling him about it. He said, "Well, we only had 3." And he said, We had a three-horse, one for Mama, one for Papa, one for me, and when we went together, we was unholy three. But, you know, they made fun of everything. That was one thing we had back there. They didn't have television back in the day. 1950 was it? Game. Well, we had to make our own entertainment. Some of it was good. Some of it we don't even talk about. But we worked on the farm. Now you gotta have working papers. You gotta get them to get how old? 14. Man, I don't understand that. Yeah, I went to Dix's Farm out there. You remember? Some of y'all know where Dix's Farm is down Sheridan. It goes way out there on the Meadows. Yeah.
Beaver Lakes. Beaver Lakes.
All the farms are now houses. Dramatically. Reynolds Farm, Breeze Farm, Canales Farm, Tubular's Farm, Dixon's Farm, Angerman's Farm. All those are now development, and we is farms in the summer, picking, weeding, working on the stand. Michael's farm actually was more of a commercial farm where they would contract to grow a certain crop for the markets in Philadelphia. Maybe planting cabbage in the fall, might include spinach in the spring, but that was not a local farm, more commercial. The rest of them were basically growing vegetables for hotels, restaurants in the area, or having a farm on it.
June, wasn't your house or your property once a shipyard until ships were built there?
Yeah, when we live on English Street. And it was Israel Smith's shipyard. They built 3-masted schooners on that little creek. And the Cottingham, yeah, was a huge schooner. And they sailed out of that area. Yes, can't hear? I'll try my teacher's voice. These shipyards were a great part of the early history of Egg Harbor Township. It was a very maritime community, not only shipbuilding, but most of the men were either farmers. At that point in time, there was very little commercial here, and or they were seamen, they were watermen working the bays and so forth. And that was the majority of employment back in the 1800s and before. We think of Egg Harbor Township as we see it now, but where we live, we have acreage, and my husband would plow the front part of the property in the spring we have a large garden, and we came up with an arrowhead, which means people were here before us, and we didn't get here until the mid-1600s, probably. Interestingly, the arrowhead that we found, one of them, was taken to an archaeological convention in New Jersey, and it's 4,000 feet sea.
Whoa.
Evidently, long before even the Indians were here, it either was the Ice Age brought it down with the glacier, or that there were people living in this area in Harbour Township that far back.
June, you mentioned maritime. Wasn't there a gentleman from EHT that developed the first submarine?
Simon Lake.
But he was from Pleasantville. He was from the famous Lake family. They're well-known inventors and people of honor in, the area for all those years. Yes.
June, was Fire and Tilton Road where Jiffy Lube is now, is that Pleasantville or Egg Harbor Township?
Egg Harbor
At the
Township.
time.
Egg Harbor Township.
All four corners were owned by the Palermo family, and where the Jiffy Lube is where their home was, and they had, 8 children? And the father,
10.
mother, how many?
10.
10, okay. I guess I got into the middle of the age. But anyhow, they basically, the father and mother worked real hard as well as all the kids out on the farm. And the story goes that Mr. Palermo would, if he got a few bucks together, he'd go down to Township Hall and buy a lot, because you could buy lots in those days, 50-foot lots or whatever, and it was basically his way of saving money was to buy real estate, which that's an old adage that really has never failed. But at the same time, he had all this land in all four corners, and when the Parkway came through, he was right in the goalpost, because every one of those lots from Fire Road back to where now the Parkway is, they will all be purchased by the Parkway to make the right of way to go through. And there's a man who really earned it the hard way. He was out there in the hot sun and all those things, and all the kids were too. But I remember riding the bicycle past where you take the exit to go into the Parkway now on Fire Road, way back the gravel road to Mr. Rush's house. And he lived in a house that he actually lived in the basement, because the forest fire came through and burned his house, but he was able to salvage off the basement, and that's where he lived. But there was all kinds of forest fires in those days, and I tell a lot of people they don't realize it, but you're only one match away from another one, because they have conveniently cleared off 100 by 100 for a house, and then they have a driveway that goes back to get there, but they have a bunch of oak trees and leaves and everything, and you see how quick it went up the other day up there, and we had a real wet period of time, so look what happened then. You had a question.
No, I asked about our society and other people and stuff, but
Well,
the changes that have taken place, you know, from, like, especially in school, the parents that come to school in those days, they were working.
Well, you know,
I-
my sisters and I, we'd walk all the way to Pleasantville. We lived where Newport is, and you go all the way down Black Horse Pike to Main Street. Main Street, when I went in the Navy, I told everybody Main Street in Pleasantville was like Main Street USA. It had everything.
Yes. Friday night in Pleasantville.
That was,
Big night out.
yeah. It was the
That's
hub
right,
of
everybody
all
went shopping.
activities,
Yeah.
and you weren't
We
afraid.
grew up together.
Rialto Theater.
Yeah. And the-
Acme was on the corner of Washington Avenue, because I remember going there as a little kid.
Yeah,
And then we'd go when it moved out to the new shopping center, which now it's
yeah,
John Brooks Recovery Center. We'll
yeah.
leave that go.
It was 10 cents too.
I don't know about that. I just remember being a little kid
I
going
do.
to Acme.
I
remember That's why I still shop
Five
at
cents.
was across the street.
Some of you weren't allowed to go to the car.
Oh no, they call it the Bug House. But all the good cowboy movies were there.
They were the good movies.
All the westerns,
No, there was a man by the name
all
of
the old Cassidy and all of that.
Oh,
Oh,
I remember the band too, I don't
And every time I go there,
Well, I know where the Carlton was, but it
The park
wasn't.
theater.
adult, you're over
Okay.
12 years old, go back and get another one. I said, sir, I'm only 11 and a half.
To go to the movies today
I
was
was,
interesting.
but he was jumping all over me every time I went. She could.
Yeah,
occasionally.
Rich, speaking of Fire Road, I remember when it was gravel, it was like 2 ruts, and it was called, Bargaintown Road was called Fire Road. And were those ruts so the old fire truck could get back there to the fires? So it was called Fire Road. Yeah,
It was narrow.
Getting back
yeah,
to these-
skinny little, yeah.
Getting back to these youngins, you know, you go to work on the farm, I guess any age you could have handled a hoe. And the first thing you did, you learned what hoe to pick. The first thing they said, there's a whole shed full of hoes, take your pick and then watch it, just a kid. And if you picked the one that was well worn, you knew something about farming.
Had a good
If you
hoe.
pick a brand new hoe, you was off. Anyway,
Those are rules. You didn't-
I just
My mom never
like to
knocked
say
the
something
door.
about
No, you never did.
old Charlie Angerman. Anybody remember Charlie?
Oh,
Angerman?
yeah,
He
sure.
was quite an old guy.
Yeah.
He rented all kinds of property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He raised corn, raised good corn.
Oh, yes.
Otto, yeah, he
was the corn man.
I think fertilizer, or was the fertilizer given him, or was
You can't get that corn anymore. That was Silver Queen.
It was good.
Yes, it was.
And, you know,
We use DDT to keep the bugs out too.
Old Charlie Angerman one time, my boy, I don't know which one of us come home, you worked there too, didn't you guys? She worked on the farm for Charlie Angerman. You know, when your kids get to be up in their 60s, it makes you feel like you're old, you are. But old Charlie Angerman, he had the farm right there across from the Zion Church. All my kids worked for him. And one of them come on home one day and said, "Hey, Pop," he said, "Charlie needs you up there." I said, "Needs me? What's he need me for?" He said, "The after end's coming off of his boat." Well, Charlie keep buying brand new engines and big ones. And he put them things on that old boat he had. I think it was an old bateau. And he got so he give the engine the gas, the old engine go like that, it would just be the transom and going back. So I went up there and I took a little bit of iron, I talked to him, so he needed him, went back home, made some angles. I said, "Now Charlie," when I got done, I said, "Charlie, what you better do is get yourself a new boat. Because they can move around." Well, he said, kind of funny. He said, "Well, I intend to," but he said, "This will do me another season." And when I got done, I said, "Well, Charlie," I used to ask him, I had tried to get him to come over to church at a men's meeting, but I don't think I ever did. Only when we had turkey dinner. Uncle Dick used to come there with the turkeys and put the meal on for us. But anyway, old Charlie, I got done firming up the transom on his boat, and he said, "Well, now, son, what I owe you?" And I said, "Charlie, you've been so good to my kids. Send them home with corn from the stand and all kind of things." I said, "I ain't going to charge you anything for this." I said, "Besides, the Bible says more blessed to give than receive." His hand come out so fast. Boy, you start giving, I'm going to make you real happy. But, Charlie and my father-in-law, old Francis Sutton, at Zion Cemetery was filled up right down there, right in front of the church, Well, Charlie owned that angle piece from there on down. But my father-in-law, Francis, he owned a piece up there where the development is, where the ice cream place is now, up in there. He had 7 acres or something he had inherited. And he got together with Charlie, and they made a land trade. And that's how Zion Cemetery got as big as it is now. It's full up now. But I don't know, we're going to plant folks now.
The stand originally was across from where the Church of the Latter-day Saints is. That was the old Angerman farm. It was started by his father, Charlie Amado's father, and they had just had a farm stand underneath the trees there, and they would put the produce out there. People would come from the city, come to the country and get good vegetables. And Charlie eventually built a farm stand there, and it was very popular. Instead of putting their own benches on the ground. Later on, it was moved down to the triangle right before you get to Zion Church, where Central Avenue and Zion Road meet. But Charlie was the charm of the ladies in the neighborhood. If anybody remembered Angerman Stand, Charlie was the tannest, Mr. Muscular, and he never wore a shirt in the summer with the khakis, and all the ladies from Margate would come out to see Charlie. They had to go get vegetables this week. So he was the charm of Morgantown and Egg Harbor Township and the big bad.
You're giving story. But he was fine old man. Charlie, he chawed tobacco.
Right.
And one of my boys, Jimmy, I guess it was, he went to work for Charlie, and he was on one of the implements, and Charlie was toting him behind with the tractor. And Charlie slipped a cut out of his mouth like this. He says, "Hey, Sonny, get a hold of this, will you?" He went like that. Jimmy caught it. That's what started my boy chawing tobacco. He started chawing tobacco so he could throw it back at Charlie. But anyway, here, I'll pass these around. You was talking about your the the big vessels they built there. This is a picture of some of the cedars here in the township. Yet, I'll pay some rent, just pay some.
You get the ribs of them down there.
And they have beautiful trees. And
When they were shipbuilding, they ran actually clear cutting most of this land around here, either for the furnaces or charcoal making, and for the big furnaces, or they were using for shipbuilding. It got so bad that they couldn't build complete the schooners that they were building along the Greate Harbour River or on Pacon Creek or English Creek because they had run out of wood, especially the type of wood they used for a mast, which had to be straight and no knots and so forth in it. And they were actually going down to Carolinas and towing mast wood up for construction of the ships, which kind of took the end of the era of great shipbuilding along here. And also it changed over to steamships and so forth and so on. But that's how busy this area was. You think of it as, you know, oh, it was very remote and wilderness and woods and so forth and so on. But it was a busy, very busy area and well known for shipbuilding or farming and so forth.
I learned a lot about Egg Harbor Township when I did the mail route at Christmas time when I was home on leave from the Navy for Harry Albright, mailman Harry Albright. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I actually used his car. He allowed me to drive his car, and he knew you had to do that from the other side and all that stuff. He had this here shield so it wouldn't in a mailbox or something, it wouldn't have done his car. But my point was, I learned all the streets, Delaware, Leap, and you all over the place, those who had Wilson's Milk. Like Al Summers was the driver, and he was later to become the mayor of Pleasantville. I was making a big $1 a day, and the end result was they had chocolate milk once in a while, and I used to wait and hope I was going to get a quart of chocolate milk. And it happened about once out of 20 days, you know. And I realized later that a quart of chocolate milk and something else was $1 I was being paid, so I couldn't afford both. Well, that's. And then I worked on the steel pier, and I used to ride my bike down to Pleasantville to catch the trolley and go there, making 50 cents an hour. And those kind of jobs paid off because in the township, to get a job on the steel pier was rare because you had to go over to the political system over there. And long before I knew anything about politics, I learned it real quick. Because to get a job at steel pier at the age of, I guess, 14, I had to go to the Bond liquor store at Arkansas and Atlanta and go in and see the gentleman who owned the place. And he gave me a card, a business card, for me to go see Lester Jackson. Lester Jackson was the head of the hiring of the ushers and everybody else at the steel pier. And he was the lieutenant in the fire department at that time. So politics being what it was, you had to be, first you had to be an Atlantic City resident, which we weren't. I got Bill Hingston to go with me too, and he got a job over there. And Bill Hingston and I used to spend a lot of time on the hill where Pep Boys is now. Come down the hill, we used to go sledding, we would sled down and go almost across Tilton Road before cars came along. The Tilton Inn, when that was built, was the first building out that way to ever have any, shall we say, anchor of any sort. But we had the good old days.
Yeah, Dick, was that in the early 50s you were at the pier?
Yes.
I was right across from you at Planter's Peanuts.
I was at Frailinger's.
I was at James.
That's very good.
Did you wear the peanut
The way
suit?
things were back then, because in the summer, you automatically, when you were of age or when you were
Working
in
papers.
transportation,
Yeah.
you had to have a summer job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you worked in Curry, Five and
Oh.
Dime, Cases Waters Roll,
Yeah.
James's Saltwater Tavern,
Yeah.
Frailinger, and sometimes you needed somebody special to get you the job. Because I remember I got a job in James because my father knew somebody who knew the walls of James, and they kind of worked that way.
It's not
Yeah.
lucky, you know.
Yeah.
We're at,
Before it was told when the packets formed there, they were set up on the
oh, they right next to the
I
children.
remember that.
Yeah. They had a garage.
Yeah, my relatives.
Barnett, that's my relative.
Well, that's told my stepson there.
Nothing's buried right it's on.
Well, they
No,
took me
Yeah, he's in Mount.
my Barnett's from the farm there. In fact, they owned from Tilton Road all the way to Fire Road along Kingston Avenue. And part of their property was in Egg Harbor Township, and part of it was in Northfield, so they had to pay taxes to both communities.
And Hackett's Farm, where you saw the market on the Mill Road.
Yeah, I was told my grandparents worked there. My grandmother was related to the Hackets.
Yeah.
So,
What's he, Ezzy Hackett?
yeah, Ezzy was her half brother.
Yeah.
She was
And
Edna.
my dad would take a ride on a Sunday once in a while with us kids and my mother in the car, and he would have the first crop around now, about April, of lettuce coming up, and it was the first crop of the season, and it was beautiful the way he manicured his farm. They all had manicured farms.
Now, did you know Whitey that worked there with Ezzy on the farm or no? Whitey Tenor?
Whitey Miller?
Tenor.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Martin Tenor.
Marvin?
Yeah, Marvin, yeah.
Yeah.
Tenor. That's the way I pronounce it.
He knows Dave.
When he had that station, oh yeah.
Wasn't there a florist on the corner of the traffic light by the Tilton Gate? You can see the remains of the old building.
Oh.
Greenhouse
You
there.
did?
On Kingston Avenue?
Yeah.
Father had the
Corner of
farm.
Kingston.
Well, you know what, the house,
Okay.
where the CVS is now,
Yes.
the truck that would be in the back, that was owned by Clarence Abbott and his family. They had the corner house right there at Kingston Avenue, Tilton Road. In fact, Kingston Avenue didn't go much further than 500 feet in those days, back from,
I remember a greenhouse with flowers.
oh, well, I think that the next house up, Mr. Comer had a greenhouse.
Oh, that's it then.
Yes.
Since you're in the Navy and during that war, the Korean War, what was the feeling of the American people? Because World War II, it just finished 8 years earlier. What was the environment in the country at that time?
In Japan?
Well, no, I'm talking about the American people for the Korean War. What was the feeling at the time?
I thought they were still patriotic. In fact, one thing I've learned after I figured it out, we were in Japan shopping when the ship, we put our ship out. We had an anchor off, not in a port. And we'd go in shopping for souvenirs and things. And the Japanese people were, man, we're supposed to be run silent, run deep. Nobody's supposed to know we're coming. All the shirts were rated out for the USS Wisconsin, blah, blah, blah. And,
Somebody get paid up, huh?
and you know what? Those people that ran that were good. They were good because the yen, I think, was 300 yen at the time. And I was with a guy named Rosenberger, and he was a buddy of mine on board the ship. So we went to buy the souvenirs. And when we bought the souvenirs, the first one we bought was a suitcase. And so we could pick them all up. Well, we got into one place and he was trying to, shall we say, reduce the price on the property, on the kimono. And the guy owned the shop finally said, "Me Japanese, not Jewish."
Wow.
That was in 1951. So I mean, what? The war ended in 45. 6 years.
Yes. So the people were supporting them. You said the American people were supporting
Yeah,
them.
yeah. But you know, as far as supporting, when we came back home, I don't recall anybody worrying about us coming home because when we come into home port, the tugboats fired water over us and everything else, but they didn't really have a ceremony of such. And it's hard to realize that then the Vietnam War, that's a different story.
I got a few things here that I'll just mention. You'll want to look at them later. Maybe I'll put them back on the back table. This is salt hay. And if you talk about farming, that was a big industry in the township. Norman King down there, Hanson,
Gregory?
No. Art Hanson.
Art Hanson.
Oh, yeah.
He got put a farm down there yet. And they all made salt hay bales and sold it. It has a lot of good properties about. I won't take time to tell you about that. This is bog iron. And this was one of the nails out of the old house I live in, made out of the bog iron. Bog iron has good properties, but one thing you don't want it in your water system when you're making tea, because it turned your teeth purple. And it wasn't so good. And this,
What do you do with hay? What do they make with it?
hay, it's round and it has, it takes salt water to reproduce, it's like sterile.
What do you use it for?
Well, I use it for, go ahead.
I was going to say, early on, they used it actually for shipping corpses. It was used in farms to burn down. But in the generation now, they used it for using it for hay and material for the animals to lay on, a great adventure and so forth and so on. I don't know.
Didn't they use that for separating the cubes of ice? The ice.
And it breaks, you use it for concrete. It holds up real good, it don't rot down or don't break down like regular straw does. Now, I don't want to hurry on about that, but I know you all been sitting here so long, you're going to be tired of us. This is sphagnum moss, and they use that, greenhouses use a lot, they bale it up, and this was a big product farming back in the early days of Bargaintown. This is a brick that come out of a well. You can see how they make the bricks, so they fit around the well. And
Is that a Summers brick?
What?
Is that a Summers brick?
I don't know if this was. A lot of bricks around the old house this summer.
Everybody here who knows a little bit about Egg Harbor Township, I'll give you an inside location of where an awful lot of Summers bricks are. When they tore down the county auditorium in Northfield behind the Metaview, not the Metaview, the Stillwater building, part of the original building was an auditorium where they had big movies and they had shows and everything else. Well, to make a long story short, when I was a freeholder, they had torn down all that extra buildings and kind of brought it down to what they are, the shape of the buildings that are now existing. They hauled all those bricks out to, you know where the Bad Bend on Spruce Avenue is?
Yeah.
Well, there's 9th Avenue, that's the one they blocked off. If you would have went straight through, it would have been 9th Avenue. And you can still go in there on foot, but not by car. But if you ever get the opportunity and you got a chance of making a few bucks, the Summers bricks are all that built the original store, the buildings. And they are out there, in the county guys used to bring them in about, I'd say, 500 feet from Spruce Avenue. On the left, on the tax map is still probably a county of Atlantic lot, and they buried every one of them under about 12 inches of dirt, and they're all in that pile, I'd say thousands of them, that are out there. So if somebody ever gives you the idea you want to make a few bucks on Summers bricks, be a good fundraiser.
There you go.
Why would they do that? Why would they bury them?
Why, they buried them because it would cost money to take them to the landfill.
Oh, yeah.
Landfills weren't accepting bricks these days.
This,
Please.
this brick is, I guess they call them salmon bricks. These were on outside the kiln. And you'll find the old bricks that we're talking about here. If you see a real dark red one, and it's kind of glazed over, that's what it was right in next to the fire. But this color here was a salmon brick. Now this is mud cedar, piece off a mud cedar log. Anybody know Reynolds Palermo?
Yeah.
Anybody related to Reynolds?
It's a Palermo family.
Well, let me.
Palermo family.
Yeah.
I called Cleo, who was married to Ace, today, to ask her to come with me tonight. She said, "Oh, Lord, I'd love to," but she said she had other plans.
Daggone. I just gonna say that Reynolds was one of the nicest fellows I ever worked with. He come in the car. I worked at the Dare Center here for 30 years, something like that, 35 years. I don't know, a long time. I retired from there. And Reynolds come in, he was a heavy equipment operator. And he come in from doing a perimeter road around the base. And he said, Dave, he said, I'm digging up logs down there around that place. He said, you interested in them? I said, well, I don't know. So I went on out and looked at them, and sure enough, man, they had big cedars like this. And they were these mud cedars. They was fell over in a Bay storm way, Lord knows how long ago. Probably 1,000, maybe 2,000 years. But it was they was about 10 foot down. That's why it didn't rot. So a little bit of rot here. But the cabinets in the township Historical Society, two of them over there is just mud cedar, because that's where it come from. Reynolds Palermo come in the carpenter shop. I went and got one of Dix's trucks. My sister's married to one of Dix's boys, so it's easy to get a truck. And so anyway, started him back there, and Lee Haggerty. You remember Lee Haggerty?
Haggerty Oil.
Yeah, and Lee had a sawmill there in his front yard in Morgantown on Silver Hill River. And he sold them up. And that's where the cabinets come from. That's in your, and let me see here. Oh, let me talk about another farming that was going on here in the township, was bait farming, shellfish farming. Now this here is a bottle that's got what we call spats on it, the oyster spats. When an oyster is breeding, they leave out like a weight, and thousands of these little eggs are inside of that, and it'll float back and forth, so it cuts enough line, and then it'll drop down if there's something hard. If it falls on the mud, you're going to die, and there are a lot of them do, most of them do. But this was a little bottle picked up clam or oyster or something one time, and had these oyster spats on it, so I brought them in here to show y'all. I'm going to put them on the back table probably, but or you can come out here look at them. Let's see what else we got here. We had a lot. We didn't have too much medicine back when I was a boy. We had black snake skin. That was, you put that on my sister. She still had black snake skin, doesn't you, Nate?
She still has it?
She still carried black, and she's a nurse. She's retired now. She's an old lady. Well, she's 14 months older than I am. I know she's old. Anyway, one of the things that we had was sassafras. Sassafras tea. And that has this a piece off the root. That smells real good, don't it? Well, that'll be here. But you know, by that, they won't let us drink it too much in the summer. Or the only time we could drink it was in the spring, mostly, because it makes your blood thin. That was a remedy for thinning your blood. And take that spring fever out of you, make it get out there and do a little work. That's what it was all about. Now, this here is a piece of maple, but that's what they call spalled. I was a cabinet maker by trade, and started out doing that, and worked all my life in woodworking. And this is called spalded maple. Now there's other trees that go that way, not too many, but some of them, and here's an oak. Now somebody burnt so much of this stuff up, shame on you. It's so pretty inside. This is I made these on the lathe. See, I turned this on the lathe. That's that spalded maple. That's a piece of this old wood here. And this here is, I got scolded by this lady sitting on the seat here tonight because I brought this without her permission. I made this for her not too long after we was married. This was the first thing I ever gave her that I made, and she gave me permission to bring that. I wanted to take care of it. But then she didn't even know I brought this. That's a piece of this spalded maple, and it's so pretty, what we burn up and don't even know about. And in this little container here, I brought some things. You mentioned Indian arrowheads. The native people that lived here.
A lot of them are around Morgantown Bay. They like to be around the water.
All over the place around here. We building houses on top of it. There's two kinds of points. This here is a hunting point. You see it's got the notches in the side. This tip is broke off that, but that had a notch in it. Now this,
There's what? It's under your foot.
this, it ain't got an arrow on it. This here is a war point. Got no notches. You see what they did? These kind, when they shot you with this, man, they walked up, give back area, turn, and pull it out, and the point stayed inside. Now, these other kind, they didn't lose their point in animal they got, so they run the line right around the side of that, and that helped so they could pull it out straight, and they retrieve it. Now, this, I hope I didn't take too much time from you folks. You told me to talk too much. He talked longer than I did when he started. This is pottery, pieces of pottery. They come, if you look in the woods or in the fields around here, you see how they'd weave a basket out of grass, and they'd rub the inside with clay. And then they'd fire it, it'd burn the grass off, but it would leave the inside done. And let's see what else I got. Oh, I got here, that is a stone, but my daddy used to cut things from Indians. Now, they call them Indian arrowheads, but I call them native folks. You know, I like to honor them people because the way they got by was something else.
Yeah.
That they use as a fishing dipsy, he said. They cut a groove around the stone, wrapped a leash around it, probably rawhide, whoever it's fishing with, and that's what took the line to the bottom. I don't know what other trinkets we got here. This here is a shark's tooth, and I know one of my boys was in the Navy, he was in Carolina, he was in the Beachmasters, and they put the vessels, the landing vessels on shore. And he said the place was covered with these shark's teeth. I don't know if this one come from around here, it was down there, but anyhow, it's a shark's tooth. And I'll put that back for you to look at. This was a musket ball we picked up in one of the fields around here. So that'd be in this here bucket, but please, don't take the bucket of this little box with you, because I won't be able to go home. Until I get more of me. Now, oh, these are some of the local dry flowers we got. No, it's not broken. It just bent that natural that way. Now you save your scolding for when you get out of here. I can get back. This here is flowers that I grew, but it's called status. And you see that the flowers will send this in a bouquet, and it'll say this is meadow lavender. This gets right lavender in the fall. Some of you live down by the meadows. You see that, and it'll stay. And once you get it, it stays. These are cottontails, and I assure they might be endangered species. Be careful. It would take, because if a lawman comes around and he'll tell you about it, you might have to go to jail, pay a fine or something. These I took off the high tension line where they're cutting them down, so that's how I got them. These are just our common cattails, and you pick them young and they'll hold together. If you get them too old, they got a little worm or something in there, and they'll pop all over your floor. So you be careful of them big old ones.
And did the little boys light them up and pretend they had a cigar?
Yeah. Smoking punks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's a red newspaper.
Keep mosquitoes off you. Keep mosquitoes and gnats off you. And these are silver dollars. Somebody says silver dollars. Honesty, they go on honesty plan, I think it is. But you got to skin them out. You know, you got seeds inside of them. Anyway, that's just a few things we have here in the township. But you're talking about kids growing up. That's the things we learned when we was kids.
Yeah.
My daddy only went to the 4th grade, and he became binding foreman at Curtis Publishing.
Yeah.
He did all right. And my wife's daddy, he only went to the 4th grade, and I think that's all the rooms they had in school. He ended up his own oil business. He did a real fine job. So that's what. Are you waiting for me to get done?
Yeah, I kind of was going to go back to Marco and say how things had changed a little bit. And noticed today that you see very little children outside playing.
They don't
That
know.
was the thing
Go
that
out
we
and play.
did when we came home from school.
That's it.
Close,
They were
put
different
your homework outside and go outside and play all kinds of games, neighborhood. today you don't see that.
They don't know it.
Communication between children and so forth is really missing. Transportation is so different. I mean, we didn't move much further from our home than, you know, the yard or a few neighbors down the street because we didn't have any way to get there. We either walked, rode or bicycle. I remember I lived on Delaware Avenue between Central Avenue and Leap Street. And I would actually walk toward the town pond to go swimming. Thought nothing of it back then. If you did it today, you probably be an abusive parent, leaving a child out and so forth. Things were so much different. And we've often heard people, my parents and grandparents say, oh, it was so great back in those days. Well, it's kind of like that with us now, that we see that things are not as easy and comfortable and communicative and social as they were then, and we all looked out for each other.
Oh, yeah.
We worked as children. You can't now, basically because of laws and because of things that are dangerous in the community. So I think basically, speaking as growing up back then.
Those are your shoes. They always went out because you played marbles. I mean, we got down on the ground and had a competition with the marbles, and then the knees of your pants.
Oh yeah.
And my daddy took me down to the shoe store there, and I don't know, about maybe 8, 9 years old, and he said, "Okay, boy, you need a new pair of shoes. Let's go get a pair of shoes." He never said that, because he always gave me a lecture for 2 days before we went to get the shoes for wearing them out so soon. I got down that shoe store and I had one of beef function like this, and he said, "All right, boy, pick out the pair you'd like to have." I said, he never did that. He always picked out the toughest looking shoes he could find. And your shark skin toes, you remember them shoes, shark skin toes? Well, anyway, oh man, this is something else. I never had anything like this. So he went in there and he had the number of the shoes. He asked the shoe salesman. Shoe salesman brought a pair out. He says, "Try them on, boy. Make sure they fit." I got one of them pair come up to here with a little knife on the side, you know. I thought they would do something else. He never buy them, it cost too much money. And got down to the counter, paid a man, and he pulled out that old wallet, and he looked at the salesman, he looked at me, he said, "How much you say it was?" The salesman told him. He looked at me and said, "Boy, you like them shoes?" I said, "Sure do, Dad." He said, "Well, you take good care of them. They're the last pair I'm ever going to buy for you." I was 8, 9 years old. Man, I was sweating by the time. But you know, the war was starting, you know, with Japan. They was buying up scrap iron, papers, and everything back in the 30s. This was the 30s. And I went scrounging the lots. I never collected so much scrap iron in all your life. I mean, I really went to hustling. But I learned to take care of my shoes, and I started buying my own pants. You say, where the kids go to school then? we went to Knox, or Knox. Yeah, that was right. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, our time is up, and I really thank you so much.
I hope if our residents are not already aware of the township history, they are now and will contact the Greater Egg Harbor Township Historical Society with any questions. If our viewers have any topic of discussion or a person you would like me to interview on the Mayor's Forum, please contact the Township at 609-926-4027, and thank you for joining us here today.